Hello, my name is Keith Kelley. I'm going to try to show you some simple things with the Spike Prime training so that I can show you some basic robot training that's going on. If you have any questions, I'll have questions at the end as well. Okay, so I've introduced a kit. I've showed you how to update the hub. I've showed you how to connect the Wi-Fi and also labeling the hub. Now let's talk about getting to the software. You have two ways of accessing the software. You either can download the app and install the app and use the app, or you can do it through the web base. I have found, I'm using Chromebooks, I found the web bases work better for me for connecting. Before the update, it was fine with using the app, and that's how the kids would connect with their spikes. And then what happened was when they did the update, because I literally switched classes in the middle of the year and they did the update in the middle of the year. Then I find if you go through the web version, the connection it just works much better. It comes up and clicks and the kids don't have so much a problem. Again, it is important that you label these hubs because the kids are going to look and then they'll, every once in a while, they'll grab another kid's number by mistake or on purpose. So you got to be just aware of that. When you first open up, you have this basic software package that comes up on the web-based one. I always start with the kids and I have them do the start. And then what that will do is it gives them the ability to do the tutorials. There are 6 tutorials in here, and each tutorial teaches them the different parts of the tool. You have the light matrix, the motor, the color sensor, the distance sensor, and the force sensor. And it's pretty independent. I have my kids do it. Again, age-wise, I'm doing this with 6th graders. I've done this with 5th graders, and you can do it with older ones. We've used this with our older kids too at the high school. Basically, it's really nice. You just follow the directions. Each one, now once you connect the hub, you don't have to do it again, but you can see it's asking me to, connect to the hub. So again, I press this to connect to the hub. It's asking me what color. I'll turn on my robot, the brick, and I'm green because I've already done the update. And then I can click green and I can say open. I push the little button. It beeps blue. You'll see it beeping. I find my number in here. In this case, we had labeled it 90. I find my number. I click on it. I say pair. And then now I'm paired. And you'll see a little green light that will tell you, okay, you're paired. You can actually see the yaw and pitch. If I'm twisting it, it will tell you that number. It'll tell you the tilt angle. If you plug in motors and parts, you grab a motor. So if I plug in a motor to port A, and you can see I'm plugging it into port A, it will pick up that there's a motor in port A, and you'll actually see the little, and it will tell you some of the information. This is very helpful later on when they're doing activities. A lot of times kids will plug these ports in the wrong ports and it's not working, why? And then that's what it is. Now I'm just going to close this out because we're in it. Now it's really nice. It shows you what to do. You just literally have the kids on the left-hand side. It says drag and drop. And then when you go and drag this down, it tells you what the next thing to do. It's all puzzle based. You can do icons for the younger kids. And then if you push play, you can see it will change the light matrix to a happy face instead of the one that was there before. Very simple, but this is a great way to teach them the basic coding. And then if you just click the next one, it will let them play around with it. And then you can say, oh yeah, I got the first one. And you just work your way. I have the students work my way through the 6 tutorials. That teaches them the basics. Okay, so say you want to just regular units. If you hit plus, you can do icon blocks or word blocks. I would point out if you do icon blocks, and we'll talk more about this with the essentials, but if I hit create with the icon blocks, you can see they're simpler pictures. They're literally drag and drop. So this is very similar if I wanted to do the light matrix, or I'm going to go and make it sound, or each one, as you can see, the motors, but they're much more simplistic puzzle based. So you stack them on each other. When you get it, then you hit play. Now, if you don't use the icon blocks, you can use the word blocks. So I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to hit connect, turn on here, green connect, open, spike 3 pair. All right, so now I'm paired, shows what I have connected. When the program starts, you see the program here. This is telling you what's plugged in or not plugged in. As we go over, we can drag and drop. they're all puzzle pieces. So we have sections of the units of the block, the word block codes. So you got motors, movement, light, sound, events, and so on. You drag it over. You tell what port. You can see, so I have this robot is plugged into A. This motor right here is plugged in, so it's A. And I'm saying, oh, how long do I want it to go for? How many rotations? I can set the speed. I can set the position. All these different choices I have here. Movement. So I want to tell, oh, I want it to move for 10 rotations. So I want this motor to move. Now, one thing, kids do things out of order all the time where they say, oh, and Miss Kelley, it's not running. And I'll look at the order and it won't be telling it what to do. It'll be telling it after the fact. Turn right, left. The light matrix, again, and I can stack them in between. I can say, hey, when it turns on, I want the light matrix to have a certain color on it. And I'm going to change what it looks like, how light, how dark. I can turn it off or on. I can have it play a sound. I will warn you, the kids will do the cat sound over and over and over again and play in loops. Then if we go down here, we can change the pitch. And then we go down here, events. This is like, hey, when the program starts, or when this happens in this color, when this color sensor finds this color, then do this thing. So these are sensors. When the power button is pressed, then do this. So this is how you can have it. Oh, if it runs into something, then stop. So I can go motors, and I can have stop the motor if that is pressed. Things of that nature. So again, I can't go through every part of it, but you can play around it, and the lessons do set these up, like explain how these work. If you go down, then you can get to controls, which is if-then statements. When this happens, then do this. If this sensor, this is touched, then do this. You can have that. This is your controls is all on your wait for so many seconds, wait 1 second, then do the activity, or repeat this multiple times. And again, you're doing pre-algebra here and some troubleshooting statements. If this happens, then do this. So if we go, so you can see here's some sensors. So if in here the color that if the color sensor is plugged in port A and it sees this color, then do something. And you can say, okay, we're going to build this in. So we're going to say we want it to turn on, and we want the motor to move and run. And we can hit play, and it will do the coding that you're playing and move as you want. Now this my unit here, if it doesn't it has to have the stuff plugged in and plugged in the right port, or it won't work. It won't move. It won't run. Kids have to do a lot of troubleshooting. Operators end up being like, if you can say if it's greater than, if this happens 100 times, then do this thing. If we scroll down, variables, you can make your own variable block, so kids can make their own statements. Down in the left-hand corner, if we click, there's tons more sensors. So there's some assignments. So for example, there's one that asks for the line graph. Well, to do that then, so watch, I'm going to click on these. The bar graph, the display, and if I go up here, I've got more movement. These are beyond the basics. Okay. So now if I click off this, you'll see all of a sudden now I have line graph, I have music, I have more sensors, I have bar graphs, I have tons more of these coding blocks. You can go, again, don't forget to save this. You want to save these every once in a while. If you don't save them, then you're going to have a problem, because then the next time you want, and you can load the projects. Down here, when you dump them to the computer, what will happen is, so if I download this to that brick, it's downloaded. Now that brick will have more than one. You can have up to 19 storage positions, so that kids can run different codes together. And I'm all in one block, but then you can also do this. So I have this, I would click to it, and I can do this on the actual, down here on the actual hub. Click, and then I can go, oh, play that code, and it will go play the code. And that's the basics around here. I can zoom in, zoom out. if I really need to get into a section. And that's pretty much the code block. You'll have to play around with mixing them, intermix them. I recommend having them do the lessons. The lessons teach that there. Then there are tons of beautiful units that are already done. You can pick one. If you hit build, the building instructions are there. My students, and I'll show you my classroom as well. I have my students start with the Rhino based one. They do a Rhino, so they do this building project right here, the parts. If you want kids to working in groups, one thing you can do, I've done asynchronous groupings. So I had with the Rhino, all 3 classes I have, they had a group mate from each class. They would have to use, they use Flipgrid and some videos to tell each other what they were doing. And they also split it up. So you could do this where you build the Rhino head and then you build the Rhino body, depending on what the kid wants to do. When you click, and again, it's pretty good detailed instructions. The Rhino is a good base to use. This is a basic Rhino. Let me go here. So this is a basic Rhino. It has the touch sensor, so if it runs in, they teach kids learn how to do the touch sensor. There's a whole lesson around that as well. But again, the kids go through the building process. The units, what will happen is there's different units there. The lesson plans are really awesome. And then when you have the lesson plan, you can pick, okay, I'm doing the Spike Prime. If you're doing essentials, you could pick that. I do the grade. I pick my subject. So I'm going to do STEAM here. And then you can scroll down and you'll see there's lesson sections, but you can also go down and find the individual lesson as well. So I go and pick this going the distance. And in here, it's all for you as a teacher, all the lessons are there, the different videos, anything you need. Like there's a little video to start the discussion, and then all the lesson is there. If you click the view the student online, this is the worksheet, for example, that I have my kids get. I have a Google Classroom, and then this has the worksheet, and I have a Google form. That's where they collect it. And the kids go, so now here it teaches them the basics, some basics programming. Again, this is where they'll mess up. They'll not plug in the ports in the right port. They'll have things not in order. But they do these lessons, and as they do each lesson, this whole lesson teaches them, one, a lot about motion, but also the touch sensor. Each kind of lesson kind of teaches a different sensor as you go. And that's that worksheet. I'm going to go back to here. And that was the student worksheet. And your lessons for your teachers are all right here. The key objectives, the things you need, all of that's here for you. You can pick which different ones that you want. The lessons are kind of really cool for what we have. Now that is, and the build, I like that the build instructions are all right there for them to build whatever. I get the Rhino done, and we do the Smart Bike. Let me see where, we do this Smart Bike here. This one here we build, and then we go through, and once we have the Smart Bike, and then I with my time I don't see them for 1 trimester, so they get to do a free build if they've earned. I have competitions in between where the Rhino, a competition is who can get closest to the edge without falling off and go back and forth, and the fastest. The Spike is the Smart Bike is what incline, the steepest incline that you can do. It's good to have a challenge, because what will happen is you'll have some kids that will go through and finish the build and be done, and other kids will take longer. So if you did that challenge, the kids are still taking time, can work on it. About 3 to 4 classes, depending on how detailed you go with the lesson. This Rhino takes about 2 classes to build, and there's a couple classes of the lesson, and then you have that overlap class if you need a little bit more. Some kids go faster, so you want to kind of build in something for those kids who go faster, do something, and the kids to catch up to do. The Rhino I did asynchronously, so we shared 20 boxes, and they all built, but they had to talk to each other. So someone built this part, and then they would do the lesson. Once they have the Rhino, that's not a bad lesson to do if you do, because you can pair some kids up with some kids that need more help building. So in the end, they have a Rhino to actually do the assignment. The bike. Okay, the bike went individual, so they would build on the bike. So the bike is here. So they built that, and then they would do the lesson again. If you go back to the home, and we go back to home, and again, units, if we look through, the Smart Bike is in those lessons too as well. And there's an all lesson. And again, I have a challenge. And then I did a free build, which was kind of fun. They did either open build or they went through and looked at different builds that we have. And that's pretty much the software. Again, I would recommend taking them through the start and do there. The only problem about the web interface, if you do a new project and you want something saved, you know they're going to have to think about saving. It's not an automatic save thing. They have to save the project, bring it down, and then bring it back up again. So that is something they have to think about when you're doing it. And they're so used to things just automatically saving. There are some lessons that you'll go when we're doing the smart bike. They'll look for coding blocks that they don't have in the bottom left-hand corner. If you click that, what happens is this opens. And this gives them, there's extra, so there's more motor. So you can add all of these different sensors in here. So if I do this, and then I close this out, what will happen is there'll be a lot more choices for coding blocks that weren't there before. And sometimes when they have to, the smart bike asks them to do some coding, some line graph coding, and you need that coding. So that's in this bottom left-hand corner here, down in the left-hand corner. You click it, and then you add the ones. I think they try to limit them so they're not so confusing, and you can turn them off or on. That's something you have to talk to the kids about as they do it. And that's the basic software. The kids, I've been just using basic Chromebooks. The kids, what we have there, that's how they've been doing the connecting, and that's the software.